Action, a whole movie.
I'm a movie producer. Okay.
Okay, hi guys. Claudia's busy doing her nails, which is gonna come on the mic, which I don't think she realizes,
It's
but
not
okay.
coming on. I promise. It's not
Anyway, hazards. I did say we were doing 2 podcasts a week, so we're shooting back to back because we actually had a couple of topics that have come up in the last couple of weeks. One of them is a more sensitive one, and it's not as recent, but it's something that I think I have more context to now than I ever have had before. And it's this idea of abandonment. Man, sometimes I wish that some of the things that we heal through would just stay in our childhood and we'd be able to have that point of view. But one thing we do not ever discuss is abandonment in adulthood and how that triggers your childhood wound and if it's consistent and persistent. Let me get rid of the pen. So I've got tissues just in case I do cry because when I spoke, so this video will come up, it would be a week from the post that I put up on Instagram about me being vulnerable and leaking all over the place. So I explained this to you. For me, being vulnerable, I didn't realize I hated it because I didn't actually know what it meant. And now I'm getting more and more context for what vulnerability actually is and what it looks like. So my friend said to me this morning that my idea of vulnerability is mushy, soft, and crying all of the time. When actually vulnerability, she said to me, I love the words that she said. Oh, this is what she said, which you asked me earlier, Claudia. I'm always vulnerable.
Yes.
I just choose which level of vulnerability I allow myself to be around particular people. And that is actually 100% on point. I'm very open about my life experience. But I reserve intimate vulnerability for people who are safe. Because I have learned over the years that vulnerability isn't safe. And I have said this in a previous podcast. But I wanted to dig in a little bit deeper around what that means for me, and I think what we should look at when it comes to things like abandonment. So, personal context, I didn't know this until recently or until maybe recent months that I have always felt abandoned. So, a couple of months ago, I intentionally went to go and see a counselor. Sorry, my phone is rude. I intentionally went to go and see a counselor because I wanted to heal some of the things that I didn't know I was. I knew there were things I wasn't seeing that I was struggling with. So going to see a counselor was going to have a third party kind of look into, or another party look into the things that I was battling with that they could see more clearly than I could because my life was very cloudy at the time. Right? And what she said to me blew me away. So I've shared this with very little people. But what she said to me blew me away, but I didn't fully contextualize what she said until recently. She said 2 things that are important. She said a lot of things, but I'm just going to say 2 things that she did say. One of them was that you are essentially an orphan, right? And you've dealt with a lot of betrayal and abandonment. The other things she said also in that meeting made me feel so seen. I don't think I've ever felt more seen. And from that point, I realized that God saw me because of what she had told me that day. Because she took the time before even getting to know me. And she doesn't even really know me. She went the night before and prayed about me. And she said God gave her a word. Right? So when she came and said those things, I was like, okay, I feel really seen, especially for a particular part that she mentioned, because I felt like my experience had been undermined and undervalued by almost everybody in my life. People had acted as though I dramatized what I was actually experiencing. and conversations around the fact that I seem to exaggerate certain things. And I'm not sure how people view it. Some people have viewed it as attention seeking. Other people have viewed it as just being dramatic. When in reality, what I was going through is actually to an extreme extent, right? When I tell people the intricacies of my story, I've time and time again, I get the same response from people. They actually cannot believe the levels of what actually happened. Like, my story still scares me. Okay, like, you can't write this in a movie and it be real. That's how extreme it was. So when I talk about some of the stuff and people think I'm being dramatic, they don't know the intricacies of the details of some of the really crazy things that happened. I haven't had a script writer been able to write the levels of the things that I had to walk through. But what she said made me feel so validated, but I didn't really give deep thought to her abandonment and her betrayal comment until recent weeks. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about that in particular was because this is why I shun away from intimate vulnerability with people. And I know a lot of us choose to do this because it's safer that way. And a lot of the time we also don't understand that it's our responsibility to curate safe spaces. We need to learn how to be safe people first before we can curate safe spaces in order to feel safe enough to be vulnerable. And I found that this year, because I've been so intentional about becoming a safe person, I have very intentionally been able to pull people towards me that are safe people. And so much so that even if the person turns and walks away from our friendship, I can understand why they have left, because most of the time it had to do with their fears of the vulnerability getting too much for them to handle and it feeling like it's too soon for them to be able to go there, right? But I'm already there. I've already been at a place where I'm able to have intimate, deep, meaningful conversations with people without feeling resistance because of fear. Because I may not like vulnerability and it makes me feel pukey, but that is my word for it. But at the same time, I appreciate it when it's in safe spaces, because it means that I get to not only see myself, but I allow them to see the version of who I am now and also help me navigate around the nuances of who it is I'm still becoming. Oh, which is just even saying that sentence feels beautiful, because it does. Like, it feels beautiful. The thing about it is, this whole idea of being abandoned never sat with me until I decided that confronting, that's the right word to use, confronting the pain I felt was handed to me on a silver platter by other people who were supposed to be in my life, was no longer something that I needed to do. There's something about healing that happens that I don't think many people experience because they're not walking through it mindfully, right? There's a shift that happens when you get to a place where you realize, I don't have to confront everything that was ever done to me. What it does is it removes your defenses. And when your defenses go down, you are different. You operate different, you move differently, you feel differently, you experience differently. You're not looking everything from a pained, defensive point of view, which now that I'm actually saying it out loud in the way that I'm saying it, I cannot explain to you in my body how that feels, right? I did say someone confronted me and asked me, when am I going to stop living in survival mode? And the moment they said that, I had to make the decision. And the second I moved away from survival mode, just all of this other stuff opened up. Just like the way I describe vulnerability is there's a box that is supposed to be a vulnerability, but mine have holes in it. So I can't contain it, which is why I share so much and why I'm so open about my life and so open about my experiences. But that's also drawn people who are comfortable with that space towards me. I have met the most amazing people in short spaces of time, based on the fact that the defenses are all gone. But this all started with the idea of being abandoned. So what I want to cover in this is this idea that we deal with abandonment once because it comes once in childhood. There's a very different experience when you go through abandonment as an adult. Because this is the one thing, when you're a child, your brain develops around your childhood experiences, right? So your protection, your defenses, all of those things develop in childhood, and they sit with you for the rest of your life unless you do actual work on it, like therapy, EMDR, self-work, whatever the case may be. In adulthood, you experience it very differently because now you're seeing it from a more conscious point of view, and it hurts a hell of a lot more because you don't have the immediate you're not like children find ways to protect themselves immediately. It's just built in them. Adults don't know how to do that because they're not in that developing stage. They're at a stage where they pass the development. Yes, your brain is still growing and still developing new pathways, but not in the same way. It's not absorbing information like it is as a child. So when she mentioned the abandonment, I didn't process it like I would as a child until I decided to no longer, when I got to a place of healing where I no longer needed to confront the pain that I felt was inflicted by other people. And I gave them grace and prayed for grace and mercy for them because I was not hurting over what it is they did anymore. That's when the abandonment really kicked in. Because then I actually saw the difference between my idea of them abandoning me and them actually physically doing it. That is the wildest experience. We as adults, we experience rejection all of the time. And most people are sitting in the avoidance of rejection. So we'd rather sit in spaces we hate being in every day of our lives just so that we don't have to experience rejection. This is why 90% of the workforce won't start a business, simply because of the fear of rejection. We don't follow through with our dreams simply because we're afraid of rejection. But I've already been in a space where rejection was part of my life. I face rejection on a daily basis. And I needed to decide whether that rejection was going to be the thing that stops me or pushes me forward, right? I'm not a philosopher in the way like, oh, you said this to me, everything I go through is a lesson. I would like to believe that, but honestly, it isn't. For me, some things I'm just like, you rejected me, I hate you, I never want to talk to you again. I don't really hate you, but I don't never want to talk to you. I'm learning not to do that. My instincts want to do that because I'm human. But that doesn't change the fact that this level of rejection created a sense of abandonment that I don't have the tools to understand, because it's a different type of abandonment. So what I'm talking about is, specifically, the counselor said that I'm an orphan, and then someone else did say that to me when we had a conversation. They said, you do realize you're essentially an orphan. You know how hard it is to admit that you're an orphan, but you're not? And what I mean by that is, who you are, it's not even about good enough. Who you are is not welcome. I can't say, anything else is not welcome in these spaces because you don't fit into the box that you were born to fit in, according to these people. I've never fit in that box. And I've been very comfortable not fitting in that box. But I'm not going to lie. Because I come across as really in control all of the time, and someone did say last week to me, when I spoke to you the first time, you just seemed so strong and put together, and you held everything well. And when they got to know me, they realized, because they had created a safe space for me to be vulnerable, they realized I'm actually very in touch with my emotional self. I don't go around crying everywhere, but I'm actually very in touch with my emotional self. So when the space is available, I'm going to be emotional, and I'm going to be real about my fears, and I'm going to be real about the things that I struggle with, and I'm going to be open about it, because I am all of those things. I am not the strong person you see on social media here and then the emotional person in this space. I am all of those things. But depending on your relationship with me and your intimacy with me and how close you want to get with me, then you get to experience the full me. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know that people could be like that for many years. I knew I was like that, but I hid a lot of that for many of the years because my life experience had shown me the people I was with were two different things in two different places from childhood. I had seen being on stage and being amazing for God and coming home and being super abusive. I have seen those two worlds completely separate from each other, and those people were never integrated into one. Right? That confused me. But that also puts context to why the abandonment was so loud now. Because those people cannot integrate who it is I am based on what it is they believe about me from the things that I've told them. They didn't need anybody to tell stories about me. Things that I've told them that I was honest about. Because I like secrets are rare. Where's time? Oh my gosh. Anyway, versus who I am now, and the relationship that I'm trying to curate with God, which has been a little bit of a battle in recent weeks, they can't seem to integrate those parts of me as a whole. I need to be the villain or the hero, not both. So because of that, they spat me out and rejected me altogether and literally orphaned me. I've heard numerous times stories of people who've been adopted who said the thing that they always deal with in their whole life is the rejection from family in that way, rejection from people who should have loved them in that way. Regardless of the circumstances, everybody deals with a level of rejection and abandonment at some point in their lives. There's a difference when you recognize you're going through an experience and people are intentionally abandoning you because of your experience that you didn't call to yourself necessarily. I contributed quite a bit to some of what happened, but that was not the sum of the whole process. And I'm going to be honest, that level of abandonment really messed me up. When I came full circle for what the counselor said, I was just like, my question, and I've said this before, like, what's wrong with me? Why am I not allowed to be accepted into the system as I am? Why am I not allowed to be me and someone feel proud? Someone feel proud that I am me. Right? And that's heartbreaking. And for anybody who's going through that, I resonate 100%. It's very painful, very, very painful to know that the people who the TV, and I'm going to specifically say the TV says, should love you through your pain, reject you through your pain and your triumph. I've been the kind of person always all my life to pay attention to what people felt like they needed so that I can fill in the gaps so that we can maintain a relationship. And I've done that. I have reached and said, okay, since you said I'm leaving you out of this, this has happened. Let me call you and tell you what's happening with me. And you know what? The last couple of weeks made me see that no matter how well I'm doing, no matter how much better I get, no matter how wise I become or how close I become to God, that there are some people that will never see you for who you are and will never be proud of who you become. That is a very painful realization, especially when it's something you've always longed for, right? And I'm only emotional about it now because in the last week and a half, I had to finally resign myself to the fact that it will never happen for me, right? That it may happen in other spaces. I might find the people who hold me in that spaces. I already have found some, you being one of them included. But those ones that I've always longed for, the connections that I've always longed for, may never happen. Because who those people were supposed to be, they never were to me prior to any of this. And it's heartbreaking because I don't even blame them. I feel sad because what one of my friends said to me that resonates with me so deeply is that they don't get an opportunity to see who it is God turns me into. I don't even know today what that's going to be. But they don't get an opportunity to see that, and they don't get an opportunity to celebrate that with me. Because they have chosen to eliminate themselves from every part of my life. They've chosen to keep their distance based on an idea that they have about me and the situation. I needed to just be open about this for once. There is no greater pain than being completely cut off from the only people you have longed to see you. Right? And if they're doing it unintentionally, I pray every day that that's the case. But there's some things that happen and you're just like, you're choosing. Sorry. You're choosing your idea about me over me, preventing you from getting to know me, getting to experience me, and getting to a place where we can have a real love connection. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if there'll ever be a point where I get over this. I don't think you can heal from the level of rejection. I don't think you can ever heal from it. And in my mind, I'm grateful every day that God teaches me what kind of mother I need to be to my children. Because even if my children had shot somebody, God forbid, I still need to be their parent. I need to be their mother. I am God's representation of unconditional love to them. If they don't know that through me, they never get to know Him. And I'm so grateful that I've been able to experience Him since that entire thing for me. I've got tissue, it's fine. I'm fine. I'm so glad that God snatched me before something else did. Because I can just imagine where I would have ended up. It would have been bad. But I'm sharing this because I don't think we allow ourselves to actually have real conversations about what it feels like to be completely rejected and abandoned by the people who are supposed to receive us when we're going through it. You know? And I'm so grateful for my friends who are going through the same experience as me, divorce, abuse, all of those things, who have families and people in their lives who surround them, who love them, who make sure that they are ready to take on the world in the next chapter of their lives. Like one of my old best friends, we spent time together the other night. And when I went there, I spoke to her mother. I love her mother so much. We used to hang up curtains together back in the day. And just the love that oozes out her mother for her child through the things that her child is going through. It was so beautiful to me. And she was clear with me. She said to me, I know that this hurts. But we have to both face the reality, and you have to face the reality that this will never be your reality. But God doesn't leave you abandoned by other people and leave you as well. Right? And this is something I heard this girl was talking about in the podcast. You can feel abandoned by everyone and everything and rejected, but literally God has been the only person who stood in the gap for me to this point. He has saved me from damnation. But I wanted to talk about this for many reasons. It's so hard to hold on to wanting to love people and have them continually push back, continually push you away. But the one thing I want people to look at and really recognize is that allowing that abandonment wound to sit unattended, undealt with is dangerous, because it'll make you latch onto anything that looks like love. I've had 3 cycles of this. And in the first 2 cycles, I was very unhealthy and very unhealed. Right? In this last cycle, I think I was so vulnerable that it scared the other person, which I don't blame them for, because I can be a lot. And I'm a ride or die. So Claudia knows, if someone comes for, I'm coming with guns. I said this already before. This is my other thing. Like, I think the beautiful thing about having this experience is also made me recognize what kind of friend I am. I don't think I'm amazing, don't get me wrong, but it made me realize that these people that I have now, even the ones that I tease, like I teased Claudia a lot this morning, she made me laugh so loud. They don't have to have any doubts. And the people who've known me all my life know that about me. They don't have to have any doubts. Because Camelo, I water.
Don't make me.
I'm sorry. But just, y'all know, Camelo, I water. I'm there. Because I know what it's like. And I was saying this to someone this weekend. They had to make a decision about their family. And I said to them, if it comes between this thing and your family, choose your family. Because you don't want to experience that. You don't want to. So I've met so many people here in this place who are abandoned, who are left to fend for themselves, who are just hurting and don't know how to deal with the hurt and don't understand why they're being pushed out. You know, you can go through a lot of things, but being alone in your struggle is the hardest one. So my thing is, the lesson for me through this is become the person you know you needed. And this is why I keep doing these podcasts. People can think whatever they like, but I keep doing this podcast because I have to be what it is I needed. What it is I needed when no one was willing to stand in the gap for me. And I'm taking this one step further. I'll talk about it in a couple of months. But I'm intentionally taking this one step further because we completely negate the fact of how important it is to have a real, honest support system, even if someone doesn't understand. Do you know what I'm saying? Oh my gosh, I'm such a mess. But this is all that's been going on. Like, I've become such a softie. And this is the other thing. I don't want people to misplace me being emotional, because this is the thing. I feel people have gotten this narrative around the conversations that we have so often, that they have believed that being strong and hard and, is the gig, when in fact there's so many tears that we share in private spaces around managing these feelings and these emotions. Like I said earlier, they encompass all of who we are. We need to allow spaces for people to feel like they can fall apart and it be okay. And also feel like they can express that they don't know how they feel and it be okay. You don't have to have an answer for everything. I will never have an answer for why this happened. I will never have an answer for why I know some people hate me so much that me being dead would be a solution to them. It's not like I haven't been told that. Me not existing would be a solution to protecting their pretense. I'm not naive to that fact. But that's not going to stop me from living through my experience. And I'm hoping that every time we talk about one of these messages, that someone feels the courage enough to build up a system or create a system where they can actually fully express all that they're going through. The scripture says, what is the one about nothing that's common to man? You could have done anything. Anything. We want to live in a bubble and pretend that people are not going through all sorts of things. This backpackers alone, I have heard stories that my bubble has never exposed me to. And you know what is the most beautiful part? Is that I got to see the humans, the people in these scenarios and situations. It exposed me to humanity. It exposed me to I have met beautiful souls, people that I cry for to this day, because they do things because of where they come from. Heartbreaking, oh my God, heartbreaking stories that one of them, I told you what happened that day. I had to send him out and sit down there in the basement and just cry. I wasn't crying for me, because I can't believe that we are in a society where we don't hold space for people's real pain and trauma. Things that they are never going to be able to resolve, that they can't tie up, that they're not going to get solutions for. No one's going to say to them, oh, I'm sorry I did that to you. A lot of the things in our lives are never going to have resolution. Living with that is hard. The only way we can survive some of the things is through the community that we build up. So the point of this, and I think I've gone completely on a tangent now, but the point was, we need to become the people who hold the door open to the safe room for the people who've been dropped, abandoned, and deserted. No matter what they've done or been through, they deserve that. They don't deserve to be left out in the cold simply because their situation brought them to where they are. And I'm grateful, even though we are now slowly moving into a different season. I would not have any of the insights I have now if it wasn't for these last 2 years, and for this year in particular, being able to curate the relationships that I have in my life, and the people that I love so much, and the people that I will take a bullet for. Let's be clear. You need to have a few people you'll take a bullet for that will take a bullet for you. Okay. Because those are your people and you can hold them through. And you know what the best part I think about that is? Those are the people who can be honest with you about what you're doing wrong, and you will listen to them and you will submit to what it is they say. I know with like Claudia tunes me crap every 5 minutes. Like she's like, what is your favorite saying to say?
Now you don't listen to me.
You don't listen to me. And the other one, what the praat one? The jy luister nie of wat?
Jy luister nie as ek praat.
Ja, jy luister. Ja, Claudia's Afrikaans is hilarious. But but she's always on my case about that. But Claudia has a quiet, like, she's like, I spoke, we'll see, it's gonna come up. And then someone says it, and then she's like, yeah, but you didn't listen what I did say. Every time that happened today. What? Jy luister nie as ek, what? No, it's not as ek praat. There was another way that you said it. But anyway. The point is, I have that now, and I never had that before. And you know what I appreciate the most? And I'm going to say this to you directly. What I appreciate the most is that you never, don't cry again, please. You never force me to be something else. Like you've never, sorry, I don't know why this is so bad. But you've never required of me to be something else and to show up in a different way to appease you in any type of way. She puts up with a lot. I think this weekend was a display of a complete disaster. Oh my God. She lets me go off about mistakes that I've made, and she just side eyes. She's like, Oh, okay, I hear you. You shouldn't have done that, but I'm not going to say that. But I've never more in my life appreciated being in a space where I don't have to mold myself to someone else's idea of what it is I have to look like so that they are more comfortable in my presence. There is something about that I cannot explain. For 37 years of my life, having to parent, be married a particular way, be a child in a particular way, being who I was not accepted, and the rejection and the abandonment was simply just because of that, just because of who I am. And although it is hard and still hard to have to face every single day, I will choose this life any day. It's hard without my babies, but I will choose this life any day, because there is nothing like being in an environment where you're able to just fully express who it is you are, what you're going through, the pain you're going through, the disastrous semi-relationships that you try to form, which blow up in your face, and your friends are just like, I hear you. You shouldn't have. Okay, great, but I'm here. So, yeah, I think abandonment sounds horrible and it feels horrible. But every single one of these experiences we get to navigate and curate for ourselves. This life still is based on choices we make. And we have to be intentional about making choices not from the abandonment, and not from our childhood trauma, and not from the pain we've experienced or from the abuse we've experienced, but from who we actually are at our core and our foundation and our authentic selves. So thank you, Claudia.
Anytime, every day.
She's trying not to cry too, so. But yeah, I feel like that was a lot, but I think for once I just needed to be really honest about this has been a wild ride. And I think going forward, I'm going to be a lot more transparent about how wild this ride is and has been. And whoever's walking through the process is walking through it with me. But one thing I do know for sure is that I hope that no one ever has to go through it the way that I did. has to find out that they are not wanted in the way that I did. That they feel wanted by at least one person or God, so they don't have to feel so alone. And this is what those whole videos are for. Every child just wants to be wanted. My son changed his Instagram profile and it said unwanted and his second name. And my heart broke. And I immediately sent him a text and said to him, I want you. I don't ever want you to think I don't want you. If I could, in a second, take you back, I would. If my life circumstances had turned around immediately, I'd have you. Because I want you, and I'm very conscious of making sure they know I want them. Because there's nothing like growing up and being in your adult years, going through rejection after rejection, when people confirm to you that they do not want you because who you are makes them feel some type of way about themselves, but they make you the problem. We all deserve to be wanted. And at the very least, and it should be the very most, God wants us, or else we wouldn't be here at all. He wouldn't have wasted the damn time and dealt with all of these insolent people in the Bible who kept doing stupid things. If he didn't want us, he would have just been like, I'm killing y'all, I'm done. I'm out. Y'all are useless. The only reason we're here is because he does want us. So, that is the most you'll probably ever see me cry on a podcast. I don't know how true that is, but because my vulnerable box has finally been exposed. I think we've gone into the layer where it's the most fragile and the most sensitive. But I'm not going to lie. Although I've been through a very tumultuous situation this past weekend around this issue, I'm realizing that I don't have to be afraid of feeling how I'm feeling anymore because I'm not in survival mode. I've moved out of survival mode, and although I'm still getting to where I need to get, it feels good to feel how I'm feeling and feel how much I actually went through and how bad it actually was and how horrible people can be just to destroy you. But the interesting thing about that is the people have gone out of their way to completely destroy my life, using rejection as one of those things and completely invalidating me. God is so amazing that He's actually worked on my heart so much that I feel so terrible for those people. I feel so awful for them, and I've said this on a few of my posts because I'm just like, everybody deserves an opportunity to get redemption. Lord, please work on these people's hearts so that they can redeem themselves with you. I don't care about me. It's not for me. It's not for anyone else. Please allow them to a place to come to true repentance because I don't need them to die because they chose to hate me. Nobody deserves that. And I'm telling you, there's something that changed in me the moment that happened. They make me angry, yes. I'm human. But I don't hate them. I actually love them to the point where I'm like, God, please just save them from themselves. And for the other people that they are going to harm if this doesn't stop. If I got anything out of this journey, it's that. Like that feels like the most wholesome thing I could have learned throughout this entire experience. Because it makes me feel full. I don't know what it is, but it does. So I'm going to end it off here. I've cried enough. Yeah, so I guess let me know what you guys think, or what your thoughts are on the idea of abandonment in adulthood. Me included, we were talking earlier about doing lives on social media. I'll probably post this podcast earlier than expected because I feel like this came from a Holy Spirit place for me. So yeah, love you guys.